Good morning, good morning. Big Swear, roadtoruta.com with your morning horn of Z's, your sip of coffee. Lots to talk about, especially for our friends in silver, which is us, but those of us who don't follow it anymore um, kind of scratch our heads as to why anybody reads any news on silver. The only news on silver that would be important is if the chief market riggers were to go away and the chief uh, exchanges were to go away. That's the only thing that can affect the price of silver. But yet, we still have Jeffrey Christian. Remember him? Remember that old criminal? Jeffrey Christian of CPM Group saying that, safe haven demand could push silver prices higher in 2018. Jeffrey Christian is a ridiculous tool of the banking cabal, of those who rig the prices. So anything he says has to be taken with a grain of salt. But they have come out with their annual silver yearbook, and it predicts the white metal safe haven nature could push prices upward. To Jeffrey Christian, a 5% gain in the price of silver is, oh, what an amazing gain. It's so ridiculous what's going on in silver. It's so sad. In 2007, I showed how computers and derivatives are used to rig the price of every metal. So it got to be, why invest in something they're going to guarantee a rig until the day these criminals are removed. Silver prices won't go anywhere. Absolutely not. The day they are removed, they'll be almost priceless. But some of the things that stuck out to me in this article about Jeffrey Christian's silver yearbook, the biggest one was this one down here. Um, And it's this quote, this is a quote from the Silver Yearbook. It says, while there is a lot of silver available in the world compared to gold, and unlike gold, silver tends to be liquidated from inventories more readily, there has been a decline in mine supplies since 2016, which is expected to continue over the next decade, CPM Group says in the report. What? There is a lot of silver available in the world compared to gold. Last I checked, which has been probably a year or so, there was about 6 billion ounces of silver in the world and about 6 billion ounces of gold in the world. There is not a lot of silver compared to gold. And yet, the price ratio is 80 to 1, 80 ounces of silver to 1 ounce of gold. In what world does that make any sense at all? In what world is there a lot of silver available in the world compared to gold? His report every year is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. And unlike gold, silver tends to be liquidated from inventories more regularly. Well, you hang on to gold. Gold has no other use practically other than monetary sort of value. With silver, it's got millions of uses, and that's why I love silver. It's going to be consumed in electronics, and Jeffrey Christian, till his very last day, will say there's a lot more silver than there is gold. We need a lot more silver. We don't have a lot more silver. We need a lot more silver. The only thing he gets right in this sentence is that the mine supply is going down. If you look at the table of rare earth minerals from the USGS, I haven't looked at it in a while, but it had about 15 to 18 years of silver left that has been identified in the ground at the current usage. And the usage is going up because of electronics. Electronics are spreading all around the world. There used to be 50 billion ounces of silver above ground in the 1950s. That was the official number. Since then, it's all been used up. Now above ground, maybe a few billion. So where Jeffrey Christian sees a lot of silver available in the world compared to gold, I don't know what he's smoking again. But let's move on. Let's move on to things that will make the silver price go up and will be real truthful reasons why silver doubled, tripled, quadrupled over the next couple years or a couple months. You never know. If the exchange is shut down, it'll happen instantly. But here's the exciting news. Deutsche Bank reports disastrous results as it retreats from U.S. investment banking. Remember, S&P put Deutsche Bank on negative credit watch a couple weeks ago. That decision is basically baked in the cake now. They are going to get downgraded, and that decision will come between now and the end of May, according to S&P. It's a big deal because Deutsche Bank's the largest derivative holder counterparty, and you could say what you want about things that'll make the system implode, but Warren Buffett was absolutely 100% correct when he said derivatives are weapons of mass financial destruction. And that's the idea, though, to destroy the system. Right after he said that, he went out and bought billions in derivatives because he's going to help the good guys take out the criminals. I've been saying it for a long time. Just go back and read what Warren Buffett's dad, Howard Buffett, the senator, said in the 1940s about the gold standard and how we have to return to the gold standard. And read Warren Buffett's books, autobiographies and biographies about his relationship with his father. He idolized his father, absolutely. So yes, when Warren Buffett comes out and says, gold, what's gold good for, blah, 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 he's lying. He's flat out lying to help the cause, to help the system run. You have to control the gold and silver prices to run an unbacked fiat monetary system. And there's so much rigging and market manipulation necessary to run the system. It is completely off the charts. And Deutsche Bank is probably the largest player in silver rigging, along with JP Morgan, back and forth. Remember, you need 2 or 3 players. So Deutsche Bank's already been busted for rigging the silver market. The other 2 big players are obviously JP Morgan and Citibank. Those are the 2 largest derivative holders. They trade back and forth to rig the price of the metal. So a bank like Deutsche Bank reporting disastrous results is a very, 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 very good sign that the things that have been in play for so long, the rigging of the markets via computers since the 60s and 70s, the rigging of the metals, silver's been rigged. The price of silver's been rigged since the 1850s, since the Opium Wars. That was the whole idea. Get the Chinese hooked on opium so that England doesn't get drained of all its silver. England had a whole bunch of silver, was on a silver standard, and literally was bleeding silver into Asia because they wanted all the silks and the teas and all that. So to fix that problem, HSBC was set up, Hong Kong Shanghai Bank, in China, the most criminal bank in the world, not on the market rigging side, I don't think, but more on the criminal side, as in funding the criminals, drug dealers, money launderers, all those things that they complain about with cryptocurrencies. HSBC is the number one. HSBC, and there's a list of them, but they're all out of the city of London, and they're absolutely criminal. Oh my God. It's worse than the criminals. The criminals are lower down on the totem pole. These guys are mega, the real bad guys. But so Deutsche Bank is wobbling and will crash. What does that mean? Let's go down and look at the bottom. First of all, they're cutting everywhere. They think they're gonna survive this by cutting costs. It's not about cutting costs. It's how do you get rid of that $50 trillion derivative book? You can cut all the costs you want. Your side bets are still there, and the people on the other side of those side bets are relying on you to pay up when the time comes. And now there's problems. If there's a downgrade, there's problems with people that have derivative credit default swaps on Deutsche Bank. There's a derivative of the largest derivative holders. So that'll happen end of May, beginning of June, if it does, if S&P bucks up, shall we say. It's not real, obviously, but they're doing it for a reason. They're doing it to crash the system. And if they want the system to crash, all you got to do is destroy Deutsche Bank. Let's take a look at the Deutsche Bank derivative book. Here it is in all its glory. Let's zoom that in a little bit. Right there at the bottom, total amount of notional derivatives, $48,265,939,000 or euros. Those are euros, most likely. Yeah, they're in euros. So it's 50 something trillion with a T. And that's with a company with a market cap of, I think, 30 billion. So in what worlds is it okay for a company that's worth $30 billion in assets, maybe book value. I don't even know if it's book value anymore. The market cap, 30 billion. By the way, we have 50 trillion in side bets that are spread all around the world through banks, through hedge funds, through you name it. If you hedge something, most likely that your counterparty is going to be Deutsche Bank, J.P. Morgan, Citibank. And it's great when you win your bet. You're like, yeah, it's great. I hedged a currency or a interest rate, and I won, and yeah, I get paid off. That's great as long as they can pay you. Deutsche Bank is saying we're having huge problems. We're gonna have to shrink everything. Oh, by the way, we're not gonna be able to pay these debts. That's how the entire system breaks down. Yes, I've been talking about this for a long time. If you go to Road to Ruta and you do a search in the search function right there at the top, you can search for anything you want. Search for Deutsche Bank, you will find 875 articles, written articles. This is back when I was writing. I was very prolific in writing about all kinds of things related to silver because Deutsche Bank was one of the main riggers, and they've been busted. They've already they didn't plead guilty. They got busted for silver market rigging. What happens? They pay fines. That's what happens when you need to keep the system together. But there's a whole bunch of Deutsche Bank articles in the past. Go check them out if you're interested. Digs in deep the history of Deutsche Bank, who they were working with, and that's the key. Who were they working with? Who were they working with? Here's the number one guy. The number one historical silver market rigger, gold market rigger, oil market rigger is a guy named Mark Rich. You want to understand commodities, you want to know how these markets get rigged, do your research on Mark Rich. Go to roadtoruta.com and do a search for Mark Rich, and you'll find, again, hundreds of articles. But here's a good one: Glencore, Metal Derivatives, Conspiracies, and the Endgame. So Mark Rich, that's the seediest, slimiest human being on planet Earth, in the commodity markets and probably in all markets. Pardoned by Bill Clinton, his last pardon before he left office, because Mark Rich helped Clinton rig all the markets while he had his strong dollar policy. There was no strong dollar policy. There was massive market rigging via computers. And Mark Rich is the criminal of criminals. He was actually Mark Reich, R-I-E-C-H. He was German, and he changed his name so it didn't sound so German. But he is knee deep with the Rockefellers and the bad guys. And if you're looking for a criminal in the market rigging, there you go. So Mark Rich's company split off into Glencore and Trafigura. Glencore was the public side of it. Trafigura was the private side. They're all Mark Rich traders. They call them the Rich Boys. And they are absolutely criminal to this day. Glencore is criminal. When Glencore goes down, you know the market rigging is over. Trafigura has kind of already gone down. The head guy of it was taken out in Colombia, I believe, a few years back. I talk about that. Just go to the search function, check out Mark Rich. But if you really want to understand who this guy is, read a couple books on him. And they're not really good, but the ones I've read is Metal Men, which is kind of it came out in 1986, so we've known about this dude for a long time, just how criminal he is, and he's defrauded the country, he's defrauded everybody, and he was all about making money. He's probably he died, one of the richest men in the world, way beyond the guys at Amazon and the .com guys. This guy rigged every market, every commodity market in the world. And he was protected by probably the Rothschilds, and governments liked him because they controlled the unbacked fiat currency. But he was the slime of the slime. Absolutely. So check out this article on it. It gets into his involvement with Bernie Madoff and that slimy operation, the Mossad, Bush Sr., he was part of Project Hammer, Bill Clinton's strong dollar policy, which was the rigging of the gold and silver markets. He had this guy who did all his dirty work as far as paying bribes to governments and the guys on the shore moving the commodities. His name was Pincus Green. He also belonged. I don't know if he's alive these days either. But all kinds of criminals involved with this guy. Ivan Glasenberg, who was the CEO of Glencore, I think he still is. Claude Dauphin was the majority owner. He's the guy who died on September 30th, 2015. And he was knee deep in Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders, that's funny. It wasn't Bernie Sanders. It was Bernie Madoff, one of the Bernies. But Bernie Madoff, it was so much bigger than the $50 billion that you're hearing about. And it wasn't just Bernie and a couple family members working in his office. They have 2 floors. I write in here, Madoff's con was how the bad guys got paid via market rigging programs run out of his secretive 17th floor below the Bernie Madoff Investment Securities offices located on floors 18 and 19 of the, quote, Lipstick Building on 3rd Avenue, New York City. Marc Rich and friends controlled the commodity side of the criminal operation. If you're looking for the bad guys, the Mossad, the deep state, all that, that's how they got paid, was Bernie Madoff. And absolutely, Marc Rich was involved in that. And then, and here's more. If the above information isn't enough to make you feel ill, in the 1990s, then Representative Bob Weiss, a Democrat from Virginia, unearthed evidence in hearings from the early 1990s which showed that while Rich was still a fugitive, he was on a top 10 wanted list for decades. He was still a fugitive. The U.S. Mint was a large customer buying metal from one of his companies. The U.S. Mint issued at least 21 separate contracts for various types of metal to the company. Also in 1988, the U.S. Defense Logistics Agency lifted its bar on contracting with Rich's company while he was still under indictment. So much for being on America's top 10 wanted list. Insane. Yes, the U.S. Mint is absolutely knee-deep in market rigging. Absolutely. They have one of the largest derivative books in silver in the world, and always have. And they don't, at those times when the mint stops making silver eagles because they run out of silver, they don't get rid of their derivative book. All that hedging that goes on, it just gets bigger. So yes, the U.S. Mint and the U.S. Treasury are knee-deep in derivative metal price rigging, and still are to this day. That's why nothing's done. And the CFTC, Chris Giancarlo, isn't there to fix the problem. He's there to smooth out the problem so that people believe it's being fixed. If you want to fix the problem, shut it down. Don't allow the U.S. Mint to have a gigantic derivative book controlled by HSBC. I don't know if HSBC still runs the book, but they used to. And then they got in so much trouble for criminal crimes around the world. I think they dropped that book and gave it to our friends over at JP Morgan, who can say, yes, we have all these trillions in derivatives because we supply the U.S. Mint. Ridiculous. All right. So, yeah, Glencore was about to go down. Trafigura was about to go down. Deutsche Bank held all their derivative book. And then mysteriously in 2000, I think it was 14 or 15, they got bailed out by China because China wanted the system to go on a little farther. They needed more things to do. They knew that if Deutsche Bank went down, the whole system would go down. So that's what China did. Will China bail out Deutsche Bank again? I don't know. I don't think so. You look at the rhetoric and the trade wars and all that. It's all a game. We all know it's a game. But they can pull the plug on this game at any point, at any time. Do I think it's 2018? Well, I think it will start in 2018. It ain't going to end for decades. And the end, I mean the destruction of the old system. The cryptoverse will be thriving within a couple of years, and nobody will even think about the old system unless it's connected to the cryptos. So yeah, if you want to take down the old monetary system, you take down companies like Deutsche Bank, Glencore. I don't know if Trafigura is still around after the owner died. But if Chris Giancarlo, the head of the CFTC, really wants to understand what's happening in metal trading and metal manipulation, just go to Glencore, go to Deutsche Bank, go to JP Morgan, look at their traders, look at their book. Where's that metal? Who owns that metal? How many people own the metal at JP Morgan, the 800 million ounces of silver that they have stored away. And why does JP Morgan, why are they allowed to store 800 million ounces of silver, and yet the Hunt brothers were busted for only 100 million ounces of silver for cornering the market? Have times really changed that much? Lots and lots and lots of things to think about and talk about in the metal space, in the derivative space, in the market manipulation space. Now, the thing will happen. The reason I still hold silver is the reason I've always held silver. I expect the silver manipulation to end one day. And when it does end, it's like a coiled spring that's been coiled for 150 years. Silver will go from $16 to $16,000 and more. Nobody knows how high silver will go. My prediction is a 1-to-1 ratio with gold. And I do think gold will go to $15,000 or $20,000. But that move, that tripling, quadrupling of the price of gold is nothing compared to what's going to happen to the price of silver. A lot of the items that we use are going to go away because silver will be too expensive. They're not going to use silver in solar panels. It just won't make sense at $1,000 silver, $2,000 an ounce silver. But that's supply and demand. That's what should have happened long ago. The solar market probably shouldn't even be up and running. We would have invented better ways to create electricity, more efficient ways to create electricity, which I think are coming down the pike, which will kill off solar in a blink of an eye. But those ways of creating electricity are all hush-hush. Those are national security interests that get hidden away. We've known how to extract hydrogen from water, H2O, since the 20s, since the 1920s, and yet it's not allowed to be used as a form of energy. Insane. Yes, our cars could run off water, but that's probably not even the best way. And Cliff High's floating cars are coming, anti-gravitic stuff. How cool would that be to not even have to worry about repairing all the roads in the United States, because you just hover right over them, fly right over them. The world is changing. The high-tech world will open up when these criminals are put in jail, and that's part of what the people behind Trump are trying to do, is take these bastards out. I think they're taking too long. I think the longer they wait, the more they have the potential for losing control. But that's me, and I don't get to make those choices. I just get to report on them and talk to you guys on YouTube and say, hey, here's what to look for. And that's what I try to do. I do want to thank everybody who listens to my YouTube channel. It's so important that that this information gets out there, and I'm glad that you trust me to bring it to you. And my analysis is a little different than everybody else. So hopefully you're getting a little different story, that everything is not doom and gloom. There are good guys behind the scenes taking out these bad guys. The QAnon phenomenon is really proving that there is good guys out there. And nobody says, it's a done deal and we've won the battle. But we're absolutely a lot farther down the line than most people think. So if you like these videos and you like listening to the Horn of Z's in the morning, give me a thumbs up and send this to all your friends and relatives. And don't forget to buy silver. Don't forget to buy massive amounts of cryptos. We are heading into a crypto future. It should be obvious to anybody who's been watching my videos. So get involved, open a Coinbase account, and then get your cryptos off Coinbase into your own possession. Hold them yourself. Trezor has a good wallet. Nanner, the Ledger Nano S is a good wallet. And paper wallets. Learn how to use paper wallets. Anyway, this is Big Swear. I'll talk to you guys later.